Ye landlubbers, release the Kraken! Hi everybody, I'm Phil. This is Phil with Phacts, and today we are making mead. Yes, we're making mead. So today's mead is called Kracken Mead. It's another one of my original recipes. It's going to be a fig and plum cranberry mead. It's going to taste awesome. It's going to taste awesome. And with that said, let's get into what we will need. First, we will need star sand. You're going to need to fill a bucket with some water, sanitizer solution. Follow the instructions. If you don't have star sand, you can use any food grade safe sanitizer you feel like. We're going to use honey. Today we're using Happy Belly wildflower honey, cranberry juice. I have soft dried figs and plums, mainly because I couldn't get the actual figs and plums. It's just the wrong time of the year for it. If you look at the ingredients, it is organically grown figs and water. That's it. No preservatives, no artificial flavors, nothing extra. So if you can't get the real fruit, you can get a substitute. Just make sure the ingredients are as natural as possible. If it doesn't taste good now, it will not taste good going into your final product. That's something we haven't really talked about before. If you buy fruit to make a mead or a wine, and the fruit doesn't taste good, if it's not ripe, if there's something weird about it, when you put it into the actual mead, it's still going to taste stale at the end. It doesn't change. Nothing happens to make it ripen. Once it goes in, it's finale. It's done. So use products you like. Same with the juice you're going to use. This is just regular cranberry juice. There's really nothing extra in the ingredients to worry about. It's just good juice. What else are we going to need? We're going to need 1 ounce raisins, California sun-dried. Why 1 ounce? Because the boxes are 1 ounce. It's just easy. We're going to use Red Star wine yeast, and then we're going to use some black tea. All right, so let's get going. It's going to be a good time. Okay, so to assemble our must to make our mead, we're going to start with roughly 12 ounces each of plums and figs. As I said, I bought these soft-dried plums and soft-dried figs. They're actually really good. And all we're going to do is chop them roughly in half and put them in a pot. Not super exciting, right? So through the magic of editing, we can get here. So all I did was roughly cut all the plums and figs. I put them into the pot, covered it generously with water, and now I'm going to bring it to a simmer and let it go for about 15 minutes. You really didn't have to watch me cut everything. I thought it was a worthwhile skipping step. Now you might be thinking, he's using dried figs and dried plums. So isn't he using dates and prunes? And no, I'm not. So I tried this out. These were soft dried, they were soaked in water. They actually tasted like plums and figs, and pretty good figs for that matter. I think they're going to give a nice flavor to the final product. Could you use dates or prunes if that's all you had access to? Yeah, you could. It's going to give you a different flavor profile at the end. And if you don't like those things, don't brew with them. As I said, I would much rather have used fresh, but couldn't find it today. So I used the next best thing. Anyway, I'm going to let this catch to a simmer, and then I'm going to catch you guys back. Yo-ho, me hearty, yo-ho. Alright guys, this has been going for about 15 minutes. And in case you're wondering about this little setup right here, this is set to low. It's just a little bit of water, slowly heating up my honey so that I have an easier time pouring. Do not cook your honey. Do not boil your honey. cooking your honey or boiling it will A, destroy some of the things you wanted from the honey itself, and B, it's going to create some unfermentable sugars. So keep an eye on it and just let it steam away. This is probably between 90, maybe 110 degrees right now, and I'm just trying to warm up the honey a little bit. At this stage, we're going to do something that you've probably seen before, actually. We're going to lower this entirely. Now it's off. We're then going to throw in our 2 black tea bags. Don't use anything else besides black tea. Don't substitute it for green tea. Don't use a tea with a flavorant. If you don't have regular black tea bags, skip it. It's okay, I promise. The next thing we want to do, take a cup, take a little bit of cranberry juice, try not to spill it, and then don't feel bad when you do spill a little bit of it. Now, we're going to hydrate our yeast. This is not a yeast starter. I'm just trying to get a little bit of a feel for if my yeast are alive. I want to wake them up a little bit. We're using about half a packet. 1 packet is good for 5 gallons of must to turn it into mead. We're only making 1 gallon. But if you scale this down to 1/5, you might not have enough yeast to actually start a colony. So just to be safe, I use about half a packet when I start a 1 or 2 gallon ferment. Now, I use Red Star. I've been using it for most of my videos, and it's mainly because I ordered a lot of Red Star yeast by mistake. Always read your descriptions before you place an order. When you are looking for yeast to buy to make any kind of brew, the big ones you're going to find are Lalvin, Safe Ale, Red Star. They're all over the place. One of the reasons I keep going back to Red Star is, depending on what kind of wine you like to drink, they make a yeast for it. So this is just a Blanc yeast. All that means is that it has been made to create some esters in your final product that are very similar to that kind of wine. So if there's a type of wine that you really like to drink and you just started brewing for the first time, you can pick a wine that you are familiar with, that you know you enjoy, and there'll be some esters. Like, it's not going to taste like that wine, but it's going to have some of those notes in the final product, and it might be a nice little comfort. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to let this steep for about another 10 minutes. Really, I'm just letting it steep, cool down a bit, let everything get together. I'm going to let this just hydrate, do its thing, wake up, familiarize itself with the world. And this, I'm probably going to shut it off the heat, then maybe put it back on for a couple minutes, then shut it off. Again, I'm using a low heat. I'm not cooking this. I'm not trying to boil it. I'm just trying to loosen it up a little bit so that when I pour it into my carboy, it pours a little bit easier. Makes my life easy, makes this a happy time for everybody. So I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes. So at this point, you're probably wondering, is the pirate hat essential to making Kracken Mead? It is. Get a pirate hat. No, I'm just messing with you. What we're going to do now is take a pitcher that has been sanitized, a strainer, also sanitized, carefully pour. And the next thing we're going to do is take our carboy and we're going to put in the 1 ounce of chopped raisins. It was about this point he remembered raisins don't easily go through a funnel. But I used a chopstick, just forced them in. It was alright. You don't need the funnel for the raisins. I just thought it was going to make life easier. I was wrong. Next, what we're going to do is add our honey. And if you look at it, it's nice and smooth. We shouldn't have any problem getting this into here. How much of this? About 2.5 pounds. There's a lot of sugars in this. There's a lot of sugars in this. So we don't need to do a full 3 pounds to get a decent gravity. So 2.5 pounds. No matter how loose you get the honey, it's still going to be a slow process. Alright, so we got our honey, we got our raisins. Next thing we're going to do is take the hot liquid and pour it through the funnel. This is going to get rid of a lot of the honey that sticks in the funnel, so we get more of it into the actual brew. That's why we added the honey first. Now, we're going to take our stopper, put it in the top, cover the hole with your thumb, and we're just mixing. We want to make sure we get all the honey incorporated into the liquid. If we don't, it will not hurt the brew. The yeast will still eat some of the honey. It'll eat all the honey. We will not be able to get an accurate reading to know what our brew is at, or at least what our gravity is. I also want to say that at this stage, you're trying to get a little bit of oxygen into the brew itself. The yeast will need some oxygen to start a colony. Now, just be careful when you take your thumb off, because there's some pressure in there. So what's next? The cranberry juice. We take our resanitized funnel, our cranberry juice, and we're just going to pour. Now you see there's a lot of foam, but where the foam dissipates, it's right under the 1 gallon line, which means when I add my yeast, it'll just come up and give us just enough headroom to have a nice safe cushion. You want to have just a little bit of headroom so pressure can come out. You don't want so much headroom that pressure builds up in here and then possibly explodes and ruins your must. If you have too much in here and no headroom, once it starts to ferment, it's going to force its way up through the airlock and ruin whatever is around what you're fermenting in. So like in my case, I keep it on a bookshelf. There's a lot of things on that bookshelf. I don't want to ruin them. So we're just going to give it enough room to feel good about it. Alright, next thing we're going to do is take a reading, so let me get my stuff. Okay, so we only have a few steps left. I did want to say, you might be wondering why I always use a plastic tablecloth while I'm doing these. And it's because I can wipe it down with sanitizer in between each setup, so that if I want to lay down a thermometer or my hydrometer, I know it's on a sanitized work surface. If you are doing this and you're using a regular table or a surface that you're not positive you can sanitize, just leave everything in the sanitizer until you need it. With that said, let's pitch our yeast. I'm just going to take a quick temperature, and targetly we want it under 100 degrees. Anything above 110, you're killing your yeast that you just put in, but we're way below that. I thought so. I just wanted to make sure. Next we're going to take our must. We're going to fill the cylinder. we are going to take our hydrometer, and you're going to notice there's different settings on your hydrometer. What you're looking for is the specific gravity. There's going to be a Brix scale, which we're not going to use. There's going to be a potential alcohol, which ignore, because it's not going to be anywhere near accurate. And then there's one that's going to start with 0.990, and it's going to go all the way down. And all you do is put it in, give it a little twist to get rid of the bubbles, and then you just see where it's at. And our starting gravity is going to be a 1.100. What that's going to translate to, I'm going to put right about here. And it's good. It means we're going to more than likely get a dry mead. And I want to get a dry mead because I'd like to show you guys some things you can do with a dry mead in secondary. And Kracken is an awesome mead to experiment with. Cranberry, fig, plum. Alright, all we have left is an airlock in the top. You are using an airlock, right? I'm not going to look at any balloons, right? Awesome. So, we have our must. This is going to be our Kracken Mead. How long are we going to let it sit for? So, depending on the temperature of your house or the place you're storing it or even the time of year, this is going to take anywhere between 2 or 3 weeks to actually finish fermenting. We're going to let it go a month. We're not going to touch it. We're going to look at it. We're not going to mess with it. We're not going to play with the airlock. None of that. You might think, why? If it's going to be done in like 2 weeks. Because we're not really going to know. And after 2 weeks, if you take this and you rack it and you put it into secondary fermentation and it only came up to about 9 ABV, then 2 things are going to happen. Well, one of 2 things is going to happen. It's either A, the colony is going to be dead, it's going to stay where it is, and you're going to end up with a slightly weaker mead than you were anticipating, or 2, the colony is going to reactivate, it's going to reopen primary fermentation, and it's going to finish doing what it was doing. Either way, you didn't accomplish anything, you just upset the yeast. How long can you keep it in primary? My rule is 4 to 5 weeks. That's about it. Here's the thing. It's going to create a lease at the bottom. That's going to be like a yeast cake. It's going to be where all the living yeast come up and down from. It's going to be where all the dead yeast settle to. And anything else in the brew, any byproducts, are going to settle. Or they're going to be gas and they're going to come out of the airlock. The problem with the lease at the bottom is it's a bittering agent. While this is fermenting, it's fine down there. Once this finishes fermenting and your mead is now sitting on this lease, it's just going to bitter it. It's going to give it off flavors. So after about 4 to 5 weeks, you want to rack this. You want to get it into secondary. We will do a video on that when this is ready. With that said, now here are the final facts. Well, shovel me timbers, or whatever pirates say. We have made it to the final facts. So this is my Kracken Mead. It is going to be amazing. It's going to be really sweet thanks to the figs. It's going to have some body thanks to the plum. It's going to have a nice richness thanks to the cranberry. If you have never made a mead before, but this looked interesting and you want to try this out, but you don't want to invest all that money into it, you could swap out the honey for sugar. It's going to give you a really nice wine. If you've enjoyed this vid and want to see more like it, please like and subscribe, or leave me a comment and say, hey, that was really cool, but can we do this? And maybe we can make something else that's exciting. I am Phil. This is Phil with Phacts. And until next time, guys, cheers.